Welcome back to the Barrel Talk Podcast. We are back with another episode. Knicks Pacers Game 4 just wrapped up. A ton to talk about. Future finals matchups for the Pacers in terms of them playing OKC and what's going on with the Knicks. First, let me start out with the Pacers. Phenomenal game from Tyrese Haliburton. Obviously, he came out super aggressive, and when Tyrese Haliburton comes out super aggressive for this Pacers team, they usually win. Tyrese Haliburton, in my opinion, is on a Dirk Nowitzki level kind of run with how he's played against the Cavs, how he handled the Bucks, and now the big-time shot making against the Knicks, and also just the aggressiveness that he's played with, I think is going to be very compatible to a Dirk Nowitzki-esque run. Now, are they going to win the finals? We have yet to see that. That has not happened. They still have to close the series out against the Knicks. But I think this Haliburton run is going to go down in the history books as one of the all-time great finals runs. Thinking about Dirk Nowitzki with the Dallas Mavericks, thinking about Jimmy Butler with the Miami Heat in the bubble. Like, that is the kind of run that Tyrese Haliburton and this Indiana Pacers team is on. Now, like I said, if they get to the finals, still got to close the series out. We have yet to see it. But with everything I've seen from this Pacers team, that's the kind of run they're on. But looking at the rest of the Pacers, obviously Haliburton had a good game. Pascal Siakam 30, Haliburton 32. Nesmith, he's been the hero of this series, being able to take on Jalen Brunson. You see in this series, in this game specifically, when they put Ben Shepherd or Nembhard on Jalen Brunson, they have not been able to have the same impact defensively as someone like Nesmith, somebody who's bigger, stockier, able to take the bumps and the contact from Jalen Brunson, stay on balance, and also be quick enough to keep up with him on the perimeter. That's been the X factor. Aaron Nesmith, for sure, has been the X factor in this series. Got a solid game from Miles Turner. He just has a hard time guarding Cat when Cat is somebody who can just operate on the perimeter, get by him, and be able to be strong enough to post him down on the block. I think that's also just a tough matchup for Miles Turner. TJ McConnell, I think he just does a perfect job of keeping the same pace, keeping the same flow in that offense when he comes off the bench. And then you got Benedict Mathurin. You got another big Benedict Mathurin game. He had 20 tonight in only 12 minutes. His impact was definitely felt. Got to the line a ton. And this is just another well-rounded whole team win by the Indiana Pacers, something that we have seen and grown accustomed to this playoffs. But I think they're in for a rude awakening if they play the OKC Thunder in the finals. Because, and I'm going to tap into it more when I do go over the Knicks, comparing it to what it could look like for the Pacers when they end up possibly playing the OKC Thunder, who are also up 3-1. So looking at this, there's a lot to talk about with the Knicks, man. Go down 3-1. They just don't match up well with the Pacers. That's what it is. They don't have the personnel to match up with a team that plays at this kind of speed and pace throughout the entire game. And this is a team that has a lot of guys on the court that can pass, dribble, and shoot. You don't see any Indiana Pacers. It happens a couple times. It happened kind of in that fourth quarter where the offense got a little sloppy. When you're playing that fast, it tends to get that way at times. But everybody on this team knows their role. Everybody on this team is able to thrive in their role. And now when you're looking at the Knicks, it sucks because I'm looking at the Julius Randle trade has, man, did they mess that one up. Not saying that they messed it up. They're still an Eastern Conference Finals team. This is the first year of this entire core being together. But at this point in the playoffs, to have some of the things that the Knicks go wrong with on the court at this point in the playoffs is very alarming to me. Looking at one of them, your best two players are defensive liabilities. I love Jalen Brunson. I think Jalen Brunson is one of the best guards in the league. I think he's a top 3-point guard in the league. We can argue about it in the comments. But him paired with Cat in the game down the stretch, with them both being liabilities, is what's getting the Pacers offense to look this good. In my opinion, the Pacers are a very, very good team. Very good team. The Knicks make the Pacers look like an all-time great team. And they are not that. I'm sorry. They're on a great run. Like I just said, they're on a historic run. The Knicks are making the Pacers look unbeatable. They're making the Pacers look unfuckwittable. And I just don't think that's the case. This is more of a personnel problem for the Knicks than it is anything. They have their top two guys on Cat and Brunson that cannot guard. And when you're playing a team with this pace and that operates in the pick and roll like they do, it makes it hard on Mikal Bridges to be able to guard successfully, and it makes it hard on OG Anunoby to guard successfully because they have to pick up the slack for Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns. This isn't a situation where if it was just Jalen Brunson, because I think Julius Randle is by far and away the defender when he wants to be than Karl-Anthony Towns. So this isn't like you have Jalen Brunson and you still had Julius Randle to where now you can kind of figure out the pieces and it's going to work because you can only have to hide Jalen Brunson. You can't hide Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns. More so Jalen Brunson because of his height. Because Jalen Brunson is really not a 6-foot guard. Jalen Brunson is probably really around 5'10", 5'11", if I had to be honest. So looking at that, it's more so when they are operating the pick and roll, if you're in the Indiana Pacers, they're getting the switches they want with Karl-Anthony Towns on Haliburton, with Jalen Brunson on Haliburton, or Jalen Brunson on Neesmith in the post, or Miles Turner getting a slip off the double stagger screen, and he's going to the lane and it's a wide open layup. Those are the problems because Karl-Anthony Towns, as great of an offensive player he is, the defensive lapses that he has are so eye-opening. Looking at this game, Karl-Anthony Towns, he was in foul trouble early and throughout the entirety of Game 3. Looking at this, and they were able to still win Game 3 with Karl-Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson being in foul trouble. He had 4 fouls. I swear the first 2 fouls, I'm like, Karl-Anthony Towns, what are you doing? What are you doing? Karl-Anthony Towns picks up the dumbest fouls I have ever seen. One of them, it's a hook on Miles Turner trying to get the ball when he wasn't even going to get the ball in that possession. So he's hooking him for no reason. And then another one was he was grabbing Miles Turner's wrist in the middle of the play and then had the nerve to look to the refs and be like, you can't call that right now. What do you mean they can't call that right now? What do you mean they can't call that right now? That's what makes me frustrated with Karl-Anthony Towns is because as skilled of an offensive player and they need him on the court, his offense and his spacing ability, he picks up 2-3 quick fouls, and now he's playing behind the rest of the game. Now he has to play non-aggressive defense the rest of the game. And that's what kills him defensively because he can't play aggressive defensively late down the stretches because he goes into the fourth quarter with 4 or 5 fouls already. So that's the problem with Karl-Anthony Towns. And Jalen Brunson is more so his size and how they are playing it is just so tough for him to be able to hold this offensive load, be the only one to create his own shot really throughout most of the game because Karl-Anthony Towns, his second option, is in foul trouble for like every single game it seems like in the playoffs. And then looking at Jalen Brunson having to hold the load offensively and he's getting matchup hunted on the defensive end, you can't have both of them in the game at the same time. So in my head, I'm going down the stretch of this game, started the fourth quarter where the Knicks still had a chance to win. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, why isn't Mitch Robinson in the game? Down the stretch. Why isn't Mitch Robinson in the game? I know he had 4 fouls, but you needed stops. You needed rebounds. You needed close possessions. That's what Mitchell Robinson does for you. 7 rebounds. Only played 19 minutes. Now, I know it's hard in this kind of series with this kind of pace to play Mitchell Robinson, but down the stretch in the fourth quarter, he would have played over Karl-Anthony Towns. It would have been one of those games where you're seeing the ESPN graphic, like Julius Randle did, benched in the fourth quarter. That's just what it would have been. Because down the stretch of the game, the New York Knicks were continuing to score on the Indiana Pacers, but they couldn't get stops, and they couldn't close possessions. And the fouls, there were 2 of them where I think they got bailed. The OG one where he kind of fell going for a loose ball over a Benedict Mathurin on the sideline. That shouldn't have been a call because it was a loose ball. And then the Josh Hart one where Benedict Mathurin was driving down the lane, slipped, and when he slipped, it caused Josh Hart to fall over him. That shouldn't have been a foul either. And I think even the previous play, OG Anunoby did get fouled heavily by Pascal Siakam on a layup, but that didn't get called, so it doesn't matter. So these 2 calls got called. I do think they were a little... I don't think they should have been called. I don't think they should have been called in the Pacers' favor. But looking at this, it's just... Mikal Bridges, another thing that I've noticed is Mikal Bridges plays so far off Tyrese Haliburton. I don't know if it's because he's trying to be in the gap side help or what they're doing, but when you're looking at this Pacers offense, as soon as Tyrese Haliburton brings the ball to the court and they're setting either just a regular ball screen or a double stagger screen at the top of the key, it's like Mikal Bridges is so far off Tyrese Haliburton to where all he needs to do, and with how hot Tyrese Haliburton has been this playoffs, I know he hasn't been great this playoffs shooting from home, which is a crazy stat, but in this game he had it going tonight. He had 5 3-pointers. He was 5 for 12, but it felt like every 3-pointer that he hit was a big-time shot. So, when you're Mikal Bridges and you're so far off somebody like Tyrese Haliburton, somebody who isn't the fastest and most athletic guy, but knows how to get to space and get to his spots, it's going to be even harder to guard him because they're not allowing, or he's not pressuring Tyrese Haliburton So Tyrese Haliburton is able to navigate these screens with no kind of contact, no kind of pressure. Just look at how they guard Brunson and how they're guarding Haliburton. Aaron Nesmith is fighting through every single screen, making it every single time Brunson is using a pick and roll. It's a bump, it's a contact, it's just a harder time for Brunson to get his space. But when you're looking at the side of Tyrese Haliburton, it's like, oh, this is just all the space in the world to operate. I'm like, if you're not Tom Thibodeau, why are you not allowing Mikal Bridges to get up in Tyrese Haliburton? Why are you not allowing somebody like Deuce McBride, which I think is a better matchup than Mikal Bridges, because you need Mikal Bridges to be also available on the offensive side of the ball, and put Deuce McBride, somebody who can get up and be step for step with Tyrese Haliburton, somebody who has some more size on him than a Mikal Bridges, but they're electing to go Mikal Bridges and have him play off, because I think it's more so just to have him play more help side. But I don't know. Let me know in the comments, because that is something that's super alarming to me, is how they're guarding Jalen Brunson and how they're guarding Tyrese Haliburton. How are the Knicks now looking at that and how they're guarding Brunson and being like, we could just do that to Haliburton. We have the personnel for that. For that, we have the personnel for. Another thing I want to talk about is missed assignments. I've never seen a team this deep into the playoffs have this many just missed assignments. There was a time where the game was kind of over with, but it was kind of not. Like, it was still that weird point where, like, it was a 6-point game, I think, and Pacers got the ball under the basket, out of bounds, and, like, Obi Toppin doesn't do anything. He just pops out to the top of the key slot area, and then it's just wide open. That happens, like, I've never seen people get so open looks in the NBA at this point in the playoffs. If you look at a Pacers and Knicks game, I know this is because of the pace of the play, and they're just playing faster, more possessions, and everything else like that. But when you go look at the Wolves and Thunder, it is, for both sides, it is extremely, extremely hard to get points. Extremely hard to get buckets. And then I'm looking at the Pacers, I'm like, Pacers got 5-6 wide open threes, and it's the first quarter. It's the first quarter. I'm looking at Pascal Siakam, another open corner three. I'm looking at Obi Toppin, another open three. And it's not because they're moving the ball. Yes, sometimes it is because they're moving the ball so quick and they're playing it with that type of pace. But it's also just like Josh or OG and Anunoby miscommunication in wide open three. Cat was supposed to rotate over and help. Pascal Siakam gets a wide open mid-range. Doesn't rotate and help. OG and Jalen Brunson miscommunication on the switch. Mikal Bridges and Josh Hart miscommunication on the switch. Now, I think that those missteps come with them being ran into the ground because of the pace of play, and it's hard because they're not a deep team and they don't play a deep roster, to where I think they are times, and now Tibbs is starting to play guys like Deron Wright, who was plus 11, gave them good, solid production off the bench. Josh Hart gave him 12, but Josh Hart also gave you 5 turnovers and 6 fouls and fouled out. Like I said, 2 of them I don't really think were on him, but that's still the point. Deuce McBride didn't have the same impact he had in Game 3. Precious Achiuwa, I think, should get more minutes because I think he's a little bit more versatile in being able to guard on the perimeter. He only gets 2 minutes tonight. So it's just like, it's a mix of bad communication, and also I just think they're getting gas late in games. They are getting so gas late in games where it's so hard for them to get stops, because when you're looking at this, Josh Hart, 36 minutes. OG Anunoby, 40 minutes. Karl-Anthony Towns, 37 minutes. How many minutes have they logged on their body just this playoffs alone? We've already had the Tom Thibodeau discussion about how he doesn't use his bench enough. But in this series, he has been severely outcoached. Severely outcoached. It feels like Rick Carlisle is playing chess while Tom Thibodeau is playing checkers. That's what it's looking like when I watch these games. Bad communication, and I think they're just gassed. Those are my 2 things that I could come up to saying all the missed assignments, because they have a lot of them. And I think it all comes down to them not putting enough pressure on Tyrese Haliburton and letting him be able to create, which is why I'm going to tap into what I think is going to happen if it is Pacers OKC in the finals. I'd be damned if the Pacers play this kind of way against a team like OKC. Now, like I said, I think the Pacers are a very good basketball team. I'm not saying that. The Pacers are a very good basketball team, but I will be damned if they go and play this same style of play against a team like OKC. Because the Knicks are making this Pacers team look all-time good. Tyrese Haliburton has had an amazing run this playoffs. I already compared him to Dirk and Jimmy Butler bubble run. They ain't this good. They are not this good. I know the pace of the play, but they're not this good. And I think it's going to be a rude awakening when they match up with OKC, who has a smart coach, Mark Daigneault, who is very young. It's going to be their first finals as a young team. So for both of these teams, it's going to be their first finals. Going to be interesting because a lot of teams, there's just young talent all across the board. I'm trying to think. I think Pascal Siakam and Alex Caruso, off the top of my head, are the only guys who have played in the NBA Finals on both these teams. If they do meet, both teams up 3-1. That's just me assuming what's going to happen in these next couple of days. But I think it's interesting because OKC has the personnel, unlike the Knicks, to put pressure. What they are doing with Jalen Brunson and putting Nesmith on him, they're going to throw Lou Dort on Tyrese Haliburton through stretches. And Tyrese Haliburton isn't the player and play style of Jalen Brunson, to where Jalen Brunson uses his body to create space. Lou Dort is going to put hands on you. Lou Dort is going to be step for step with you. You're not going to just drive through Lou Dort. And then once Lou Dort has had his time with you, they're going to go ahead. All right, Alex Caruso, who has guarded the MVP, former MVP Nikola Jokic this playoff run, who has done a great job on guys like Anthony Edwards this playoffs. You're also not just going to drive past Alex Caruso like he's driving past Mikal Bridges, more so because Mikal Bridges isn't putting pressure on the ball. OKC will not allow, I'd be damned if I saw game one and I'm sitting here watching Tyrese Haliburton with no pressure at all on him. They're going to have Cason Wallace, Alex Caruso, and Lou Dort, and even J-Dub in some stretches on Tyrese Haliburton that whole series. So I'd be damned. I know the Pacers are a good team. I'm not saying they're not a good team. But they ain't this good. They are not this good to just be running through the Eastern Conference like this. But when you go back to the Cavs series, it's kind of the same thing. Bad defensive rotations. I know you had Darius Garland hurt, but there isn't a player on OKC you can match up Hunt. That's the problem the Minnesota Timberwolves are having. Kind of tapping in a little bit to that series. Minnesota Timberwolves could have won last game. They led in every single almost stat of the game, and they still lost. So when I'm looking at a possible Pacers-OKC finals, I'm not saying the Pacers are not able to win that series, because I think they are, with how they are able to play and how they are able to push the pace. I think it's going to also be a wake-up call for OKC, because nobody in the Western Conference, even that they've played now, has even came close to the pace that the Pacers play with. So I think it's going to be a good matchup of styles, but I'd be damned if I see Tyrese Haliburton against an OKC team. I'd be shocked, actually, if Tyrese Haliburton had the freedom to move with no ball pressure, really, throughout the game against an OKC team like he has against the Knicks. It's crazy to me. All they had to do, if you're Tom Thibodeau, why don't we do to Haliburton what they're doing to Brunson? Why don't we put a little bit bigger of a body on him and make him work to get over the screen, make him work to get downhill, make him work to get to the basket? Now, Jalen Brunson's a phenomenal player. He go get his, like he had 31 tonight. Quiet in the fourth. They got Nesmith fighting through screens like it's the 2000s. Nesmith don't want the switch. That's what's going to happen to the Pacers when they play OKC. And it's going to be interesting because will the pace of play be able to overpower that kind of pressure? It's going to be a matchup we'll see, and I'll do kind of a review and a preview going into the finals if that is the matchup, Pacers and OKC Thunder. But if you're the Knicks, you have a personnel problem. I think Tom Thibodeau has been severely outcoached this series, for sure, by Rick Carlisle, and it's showing really, really bad. But they need to go into the offseason and look to add more depth. I'm not saying the series is over. 3-1 has been come back from before. But just looking at this, they look like a team dead in the water. It's always, the Knicks aren't dead. They can make the comeback. Why are you down in the first place by 20? I hate they've come back from this before. Leads aren't safe. Why are you down anyways? You know what I'm saying? I know teams go on runs and you're on the road with a team that has all this momentum and is on a great run like the Pacers are, but it's just like the Knicks, I feel like every game I watch the Knicks are down to 10 plus the entirety of the game. The entirety of the game because of situations where it's like not closing possessions, not closing quarters well, missed assignments, dumb fouls, and getting the Pacers into the bonus in the fourth quarter with like 9 minutes to go because you can't keep your hands off people. It's going to be so interesting to see how the Pacers and OKC match up. Like I said, if they get to that point and if that's the matchup. But the Knicks have a lot of question marks. At the end of the series, I'm interested to see how Game 5 goes on Thursday. But if I had to guess, I don't think they're going to beat this Pacers team. on Thursday. And if they beat them on Thursday, I damn sure don't think they're going to be able to pull off this 3-1 comeback with the pace of play and the momentum the Pacers are playing at. But that is all I have for this episode of the Barrel Talk Podcast. Thank you guys for tuning into this episode. Hope to see you tune into future episodes.